Hi everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming Venus retrograde season, which starts on December the 19th and lasts until the 29th of January 2022. This Venus retrograde is a little bit special for a number of different reasons. One of them is being that we had a lot of karmic energy taking place in the last couple of years in this part of the sky, as in Capricorn, where she goes retrograde. And perhaps one of the most important is, without a shadow of a doubt, the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, the very, very rare conjunction which only happens once every 500 years, that took place on the 12th of January 2020. And since Venus is the planet of love, of beauty, of value, anything that has to do with our emotional setup, well, this is where whatever took place in our lives, not just in 2020, but 2020 was basically the cherry on top, but also in 2019, because we had eclipses in Capricorn at that time, and we also had the nodes of the moon, the north and the south node in the Capricorn Cancer axis. So that was a lot of transformation, that was a lot of release, that was a lot of basically resetting our values, changing our lives, the structures of our lives, Capricorn, and not just individually. This time it was even more significant from a collective perspective, and how the COVID situation transformed our everyday normality. That was basically the most profound and most pivotal expression of the karmic energy in Capricorn. So basically what Venus is doing right now, she is helping us or guiding us, inviting us to let all of that sink in very, very deeply. And since like every retrograde, regardless of which planet we're talking about, we also will take a retrospective look and basically see how it all transformed our lives, especially from an emotional perspective, a value perspective, because we are different. Our lives are different. The way we see the world is different. The way we envisage our future is different. So all of this needs a lot of processing. And chances are, Venus begins this process, so to speak, from a deeply emotional and value perspective. And after Venus, Mercury is going to go retrograde as well next year. But Mercury will go retrograde in the sign of Aquarius and retrograde back into Capricorn. So that is a very complex energy, mental, rational energy. But there will be a very short moment when both of these planets, both Mercury and Venus in retrograde, are gonna be at the same time in Capricorn. So according to my personal calculations, that is the moment when it will really, really sink in deep, not just emotionally, but that time also rationally. Now, Venus is the ruling planet of relationships, and Capricorn is a very karmic sign because it is meant for the long term. It is basically the structures of our lives, and that is not really susceptible to change from day to day, even for air signs, even for Gemini, even for Pisces. Capricorn is meant to provide stability. It is basically the backbone. And it was exactly this backbone which underwent a really profound transformation change. And needless to say that it's still ongoing, because Pluto is still in that part of the sky for a couple of years. But Pluto is already adding the finishing touches. So that means that emotionally we can actually process whatever happened. We can basically already anticipate what is about to come. And Pluto actually needs our emotional maturity, our value system, regardless if we are talking about relationships, love, value, work, career, what we want to do with our lives, what we want to do with ourselves, what we feel for ourselves, that's also included. This Pluto needs all of this to be crystal clear for us, because that is how it will add the finishing touches. Because as I spoke, and every other astrologer spoke about this in great detail, Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, it is basically deconstructing the old order, but that also means that the old order is being deconstructed psychologically within us as well. And also, the United States Pluto return, the exact moment is upcoming. And, all of this requires Venus to show us or invite us to contemplate, to crystallize our feelings about all of this, and this especially from a collective perspective. Now, before I get into the details and I begin, I would just like to say that Venus in the sign of Capricorn is very, very earthly. She is not able to bring forward her, for example, most elevated Piscean qualities, Piscean because she is exalted in that sign, or not even her Cancerian traits where she's deeply nourishing. And whenever she is in exaltation or she is very comfortable in a sign, she has a touch of idealism to it. She has a touch of emotional hyperactivity. And this both in the good sense and in the bad sense, depending on her positions, her aspects, and even in our personal charts, depending on her position, where she is, what she is meant to do, what she is meant to overcome as in challenges, squares, for example. But in the sign of Capricorn, she is very, very down to earth. She is able to bring forth wisdom because she can actually see beyond the emotional hyperactivity, the emotional turbulence, and see everything, if needed of course, through very, very practical eyes. Because as I said, whatever she represents, it is meant for the long term, so that needs structure, that needs control, that needs mastery. And I know that from a certain perspective, emotions, feelings, Venus is not very susceptible to this, but right now in Capricorn especially, it is a must, because the opposite sign of Capricorn is Cancer, and whatever happens in one particular sign, it also reflects and projects itself on the opposite sign, so Cancer. And Venus is always really comfortable in Cancer. But that also means that she can be a little bit too much, little bit extreme. For example, let me just give you a very practical example. Those people who have very, very strong Cancerian energies, and maybe even have Venus in it, they can be very overprotective, over-nurturing, like suffocating love, suffocating care, too much love basically. And it takes Capricorn to balance it out, because Capricorn is a Saturnian sign, so it always looks at what is actually healthy, where the balance is, where the, for example, sacrifices, what we have to work on still. Venus in Capricorn loves commitment very, very much. And commitment is going to be a key issue here, because during her retrograde she will meet Juno in the sky, the wife of Jupiter, goddess of marriage and commitment, so we'll get to that later on. She is also going to meet Pluto in the sky 3 times, and Pluto is the planet of change, alchemy, transformation, but also of power and truth. And when Venus will meet Pluto, commitment, is the commitment worth it? Is the sacrifice worth it? Or perhaps if someone lacks a lot of commitment from their lives, maybe they will realize that that is exactly what they need for stability. Or for example, Venus in this part of the sky, hermit kind of people, or artists and spiritualists, those who are usually very, very comfortable solo, those who enjoy being alone and immersing into their inner worlds very, very much. Maybe this will be an inner call for those type of people. Well, All of that is wonderful. You're self-sufficient. You can nurture yourself, self-love, and the mystery and the beauty of exploring one's soul. Okay, but we live in times when we actually need someone, physically even, materially, let's say, and this isn't, don't understand this in the bad sense, but understand this as alliance. Two wallets or two heads, two anything is better than one. The practical side of an alliance and also the emotional side. We live in scary times. Who exactly wants to be alone right now? An embrace, a hug, a cuddle. Venus in any earth sign is also about that, the physical needs. Venus also rules the sign of Taurus, and there she's all about the earthly expression, the five senses, the touch, smell, taste, etc. She also needs that. Basically, life is really, really not complete without all those, regardless of who it is that we are. Even if we choose, let's say, to sacrifice all that for something much more elevated like spirituality, or basically someone gives into their faith and they become a hermit, a monk, etc. That's absolutely wonderful, but we live in times where basically the structure of our world, society, everything is being demolished. So that which was absolutely acceptable and worked fine in the past, it's no longer working. And even if we may not change this right now, especially during this Venus retrograde, at least the knowledge, the awareness of that is going to be very, very important. Now, without a shadow of doubt, Venus is also money, finances, currency, anything that has to do with material wealth. So that is also going to be a big theme and a big issue one way or another. Of course, personally, depending on where Capricorn falls into your personal chart, which area of life, which house. Capricorn in itself is also life path, career, what we do in the world physically through our work, sacrifice, time, effort, etc. So for a lot of people, it's also going to be about that, truly refeeling or analyzing things from an emotional and value perspective. Can I sacrifice for this? What kind of future or even what kind of present does what I'm doing promise me materially? And maybe not necessarily all about money and income, about how happy, how fulfilled, how satisfied does it make me feel? Do I actually feel that I'm fulfilling my life purpose, my role in the world? Or would I actually want something else? Or am I truly called to do something else, but because of the conditions, I cannot do that right now? Even if we cannot change this immediately, the awareness of this is going to be very, very important. Naturally, because we're talking about Venus, partnerships, love, romance, any kind of romantic alliance or marriage or relationship is going to be included here. And like any Venus retrograde in especially a strong earth sign as Capricorn, the house of Saturn, it is going to be very revelatory, as in where our relationship is right now. It is also going to be a retrospective about the past, how well we did in the last couple of years, for example. It's also about the future, where this is leading us. Because when we have structure in our lives, that structure also has to serve the future, the longer term future. So how stable is this relationship? There is Pluto, of course. When Venus meets Pluto, who has the power, who has the control? Are we powerful together as a couple? Are we meant to last? Or are there certain things, issues that we truly have to work on, regardless of what expression that takes? Venus retrograde can also be a big game changer because it brings stuff back from the past. That can mean past lovers, past partners. I would even say even very, very close friends, even soulmates who we didn't have a romantic connection with, but they were like susceptible to the Venusian expression. We loved them. And maybe this will be a kind of confrontation where both of us, as in us and that person from the past, takes a look at the other person's new value system. How they transformed, evolved, changed during that time. And perhaps, I'm pretty sure that for some people, this will be the conclusion that, well, we're compatible in the now. Maybe who we were and what kind of values we had, regardless in which sense, in the past when the connection was severed, we were incompatible, but the way we changed, the way we evolved, the way, and this is a big keyword for Capricorn, matured emotionally, makes us very much compatible. So this will be a key theme for a lot of people, especially with relationships. And Capricorn is the house of Saturn, so it's a very karmic sign. So this can mean that during this Venus retrograde, fate can bring old couples who separated back together, and perhaps in the most positive sense, because both people matured, both people changed, transformed, evolved their value systems. Because Venus is so very active, and Capricorn is a very karmic sign, and not to mention, when Venus meets Pluto, she meets him 3 times, again, sorry to repeat this. That's a very fated energy, karmic energy. Pluto can also be seen as the hand of fate. So maybe destined relationships, meeting that special someone who has to be your partner, can happen during this Venus retrograde period for different reasons. For example, emotional maturity can make 2 fated lovers, for example, meet because that makes their energy, their frequency, their ability to cooperate and understand each other makes them very compatible. The other keyword here, well, Venus in retrograde, the need. Maybe from a karmic perspective, 2 people just need each other, as in they need this alliance, they need to form that couple to survive. That is also a big possibility. Now, of course, maybe the need is emotional, maybe the need is material, maybe the need is simply to have someone in your life to keep the balance, to inspire you, to guide you, or maybe a partner needs someone to nourish them emotionally or physically, let's say cook for them. And that may sound funny, but that's a basic need. And let's say the other partner is a very lonely kind of person, and in the events to come, on the world stage and etc., loneliness can be quite deadly, especially around the Neptune and Jupiter conjunction. So this karmic need to have this partnership in your life may act as a magnet where the universe says, okay, ready or not, you guys have to be together right now. And if there are any incompatibilities, issues, wounds, etc., whatever would make a karmic partnership incompatible, as in not the time to meet each other yet, that might be overshadowed by the physical need to have one another in your life. So this is also a very important element here. What makes me think that a lot of partnerships are going to be formed, maybe not straight in this Venus retrograde period, but very soon after. And also, to support this, the year 2022. 222, a lot of 2s, and the numerological symbolism of 2 is also partnership. So let's work in 2, collaboration, etc. And this might perfectly be true romantically, in any kind of partnership, karmic partnership. Now, what this Venus retrograde in Capricorn doesn't really favor is the kind of karmic connections which are strongly Neptunian, as in more illusion than real. For example, twin flames and extreme expression or interpretation of what a soul connection may mean. Chances are that during this retrograde, twin flames or those who desire twin flames in their lives are gonna be like profoundly disillusioned, so much so that these delusionary expectations will exit their souls, their minds once and for all. It will really, really bring them down to earth. That perhaps the universe doesn't work in such an elevated, Neptunian, magical, quantum way at a time when there is big trouble brewing. Maybe if there would be a world full of peace and serenity and stuff like that, why not? Because you can manifest it. What you believe is ultimately what you will get. If you believe in twin flames, well, of course you're gonna be connected. And of course for you personally, it's gonna seem like that special magic, but not right now. And also, the nodes of the moon are gonna shift. They're gonna enter the Taurus-Scorpio axis. And the North Node in Taurus, that's reality. That is, the power of nature is the most predominant force in the next 18 months. So basically nature's way, nature's rules, nature's simplicity. And in nature, you don't have to be a twin flame to have a partner. You don't need the quantum compatibility. And actually the South Node in Scorpio might want to make you believe that to disillusion you, to put salt on your wounds. It just shows you that you're the creator of your own reality and everything is just a perception. So if you necessarily wanna see the twin flame part of the story, then of course that's what you're gonna get, but not in times when you really have to kind of survive the North Node in Taurus, the basic needs, basic instincts, back to the basic in any way, shape or form, even materially, even financially, even economically. So this is also going to be a major theme of this Venus retrograde period, where that which is spiritually a bit hyper, that which is almost BS, so to speak, that which we created and we are upkeeping to be true, to exist, that is gonna be, put in its place, as in to make us aware that at the end of the day, we want to think that, we want to create that. It's not a fundamental law of nature. And nature is also going to be a big keyword here, because on one hand, Venus will try and Sedna in her home sign of Taurus. Sedna is a very slow-moving planet. Sedna is going to be in Taurus for more hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, because she needs 10,000 years to revolve around the zodiac. So she acts basically as the soul of nature, the spirit within nature, the divine in nature. So we can expect our instincts to awaken, and that's always a very, very good sign. And also, especially when she begins her retrograde, so 19th, 20th, 22nd, 24th, Venus is going to be holding sextile with Neptune, a Neptune which is direct by now. That is a very strong alchemical energy, especially that at this time, her first conjunction with Pluto takes place, and Pluto is the ruling planet of alchemy, so this means a lot of manifestation. And this manifestation is actually our needs. So Capricorn, that which makes us safe, that which gives us our basic needs, that which serves us in the long term. Of course, Neptune is dreams and Venus is the lower octave of Neptune, so they're a bit dreamy, they're a bit idealistic, but the energy of Capricorn balances them out, and Neptune is in the third decan of Pisces, so a very scorpionic energy that also adds a lot of realism to it. So even if our needs, our dreams, our desires are Neptunian of nature, of course everyone wants for themselves what is most ideal, but what we're gonna get, as in what manifests, well, it will have to do. Even if it's not ideal, it will definitely be good enough because this is for the long-term future, and this is also financial energy. This is also profession, job, career. When Venus meets Pluto, this can represent a powerful inner calling or any kind of fated event which enables a career change, job change, profession change. Pluto is the planet of power. So I do see this energy that a lot of people are going to make that very brave step to go freelance, to work for themselves, to cut off that which is mainstream, not to have bosses, not to be ordered around, not to be commanded. Venus, love and beauty, that also means art. So a lot of people are going to make this very brave step to provide for themselves through their artistic expression, whatever that may be. Of course, not immediately, because chances are the first meeting of Venus and Pluto is just gonna be the soul calling, the realization. Maybe it will be a little bit shocking. Maybe it will be a powerful epiphany. Maybe a person will make it very, very clear for you that you're talented and you should be doing that. And then as Venus moves backwards, that will be the time to process it. That will be the time to ask your heart, ask your emotions, ask your feelings. Would that make you so very happy? And would that actually unleash the authentic you to make that risky step? And then around the 15th of January 2022, when Mercury starts retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, future plans, future dreams, future hopes, society, social connections, and re-enters Capricorn on the 26th of January, maybe that will be the moment when some opportunities will come in your life, or when you make that big decision, or when you start creating the plan of how you're going to be independent, or the career change, job change, etc., etc. So this is full of opportunity. But before even that, and I'm so sorry that I'm kind of jumped straight ahead, because on the 28th of December, Venus will first meet with Mercury, Mercury being direct, Mercury transiting Capricorn and preparing to move into Aquarius. That might already be a wake-up call where what you feel is going to be processed intellectually, rationally, logically, and you start looking for options. You start speaking, you start communicating, you start telling other people that this is what you're planning. Maybe ask advice, maybe ask for an expert, Capricorn, someone who is like a counselor, a job counselor, career counselor, astrologer, therapist, etc., someone who can give advice. But before I move on, I would just like to say, when Venus meets Pluto, what that might mean relationship-wise, because that is also very, very important. Capricorn, the commitment. And also Capricorn's opposite sign is Cancer. Cancer is the family. Cancer is where your marriage, your relationship plays out. In any sense, it can even be a physical home, a house. How you feel about the house. How you feel about sharing your house, your home, your life, your emotions, your everyday normality with someone. If there are troubles, if, for example, a couple has been very, very disharmonious for some time now and they just cannot get along, that might be the moment when it sinks in that we have to do something. We have to go separate ways. And the good thing is, with Venus in the sign of Capricorn, as I said, she is not hyper emotional. Maybe this will be the moment when both sides, both parties, both partners can sit down and talk in a very clear, direct, honest Pluto manner that they have to separate, and Capricorn as the practicality. How, in which way, when, how do we split stuff up? And so this is the moment when the decision is being born. And during this Venus retrograde season, maybe they will think it through profoundly from any perspective, even emotionally. When Venus meets Mercury, a helper, a counselor, go to a psychologist and see why you're incompatible, if you can fix this relationship, if you speaking with parents, for example, Capricorn, the father figure, speaking with an elder, someone who has been through a long marriage and already has experience. And then during the Venus retrograde, the couple will think it through profoundly. And then when Venus goes direct and meets Pluto for the third and final time, that's the moment of the decision. Pluto can represent separation, especially when she's in hard aspect with Venus. But it can also represent the decision, well, we don't want to actually separate because at least physically we're okay with one another and we can work around the emotional issues. Let's go to therapy. That is also a possibility. Or another possibility, Pluto, control, power. I'll surrender some control, you surrender some control, and we can actually make it. While for other couples, well, it won't work. Let's make this step now while we still can. This can also play out in a totally different way because, every planetary aspect has different expressions. Venus conjunct Pluto can represent infidelity, but Pluto is also truth. During the Mercury retrograde season, the secret won't stay a secret. That might cause a separation, and even if it's dramatic, emotionally up and down, or maybe there's a battle because Mars is also going to be very active and vengeful, to be totally honest with you. So there is going to be fights and conflicts, etc. Maybe the infidelity was the truth being revealed that there is no commitment there anymore. There is no that kind of love there anymore. So the hand of fate will do the work. But let's see the positive side, emotionally, relationship-wise, of this Venus and Pluto conjunction, because this can also give birth to very unusual relationships, especially that Venus is going to be holding a trine with Uranus in her home sign of Taurus around the end of the retrograde, and Uranus is the unusual, the rebellion, the truth as well, but the more objective kind of truth, not necessarily the inner truth. And Uranus is in Taurus, so that's an earthly kind of truth. So for example, two people will meet, but it might be the physical, hormonal, the sensual compatibility that will work for them just fine, and they can get so hyped up that that very strong sexual connection turns on almost onto an obsession, and that will be the key element of their relationship. The hand of fate works in strange ways sometimes, let's say, especially with Uranus in the picture. Or let's say there are certain unusual couples, like couples who have a big age gap between them, or let's say same-sex couples, but that's not unusual in its own right, but maybe where there is a big difference between the partners, where one is perhaps new to this and it is just discovering this side of their sexuality, let's say. Or let's say there is a huge social distance, actually, as in a big difference between the two partners, where let's say he comes from a very poor, so materially poor background, and she is rich and famous, and that's very, very unusual, because usually it's the other way around, but this is Pluto. It deconstructs the old norm in every way, shape, or form. Or let me just give you a totally different example. One of the partners is a superstar, a public person, someone very successful, someone very outgoing, and the other partner is very, very shy and introverted. But where I'm getting with this is that this conjunction of Venus and Pluto has the potential to make these couples work. And when she conjuncts with Juno on the 7th of January, this Juno can act as the glue where they can actually commit to each other. And it is the power of the commitment, the word given, the promise made, that will give them the strength to overcome all of these obstacles. This is where they can actually show the world that they can work with this. That whatever big difference is between them, for example, as I said, the age difference, social background difference, job difference, career difference, sex difference, whatever, they can show the world that through commitment, willpower, and emotional understanding and tolerance, they can actually make this work. Now, another expression romantically with this Venus and Pluto conjunction is unusual attractions. What I said earlier doesn't necessarily represent new relationships, because a lot of people are already in these types of relationships. But this conjunction just makes it work, makes them make that final commitment which will transform their lives. But for those who are single, maybe a totally new, unexpected, new relationship is gonna come in their lives, especially if they do not expect it, if they do not see it coming, and they might have a totally different kind of need, necessity, crisis, problem in their lives, because everyone has the Saturn and Uranus square in their own chart. So for example, someone has a big career crisis, let's say, someone has spiritual crisis, someone has psychological crisis, whatever, and an unexpected love comes in their lives, and it becomes so obsessive to both partners that they forget any other kind of problem, and this heals them, but it's also obsessive, so it's a bit dangerous. It's very Plutonian. So basically, regarding love and relationship, I do think that this was the Venus retrograde in a nutshell. Now let's get back to business and see what else Venus does. As I said, on the 7th, she conjuncts Juno, and Juno is quite relevant even within career, life path, all the other expressions of Venus, for example, materially. And why? Well, because, for example, Juno can represent your partner if you're in a committed bond. Even if this Venus retrograde doesn't mean that much to you emotionally, as in love and stuff like that, maybe you need to work on something with your partner, how to change your lives materially. A partner has to change jobs, and of course, one way or another, that also depends on the other partner, what they think, what they feel, how they can cope. And as I said, everything that happens in a sign reflects in the other sign. So it reflects in Cancer. Cancer is home, maybe relocation, how a change of jobs, careers, income, etc. Basically the structure of someone's life, someone's normality influences their home, their family, their everyday lives as a family. But even for people who are single, Juno can be seen as the career, the job, the profession, whatever you're doing that you're committing to. Or it can, you have a desire, you want to do something, and this something has to be kind of physical. Buy something, get something, achieve something, get somewhere. So that is Juno, and you commit to it. So you say, you promise to yourself, I'm going to work, I'm going to make money, I'm going to gather resources or support or other people, whatever that needs, until I get there, and I commit to this. And when Venus meets Mercury, when Mercury enters the sign of Capricorn, well, that can be the moment of communication, making the plan, getting advice, or seeking your own advice, basically. And then we have, as I said, the Mercury retrograde season that will make you go back to the drawing board and truly perfect the plan of how you want to do it, when, key dates, key times, key elements, modus operandi, so to speak. And then basically you make it happen. So I do believe that this Juno is also very important. And then another element which I would like to mention is that on the 28th of January, Venus holds a harmonious celestial conversation with Uranus in her home sign of Taurus. And this is also important because Uranus is direct by now. So we have a very powerful, externally expressed Uranus. And this can be a quite lucky, fortunate energy of blessings because it's a trine. And it can be money, it can be romance, it can be a lot of unexpected, surprising, delightful blessings. And also at the same time, Venus will hold a sextile at the very, very end of her retrograde with Jupiter, but Jupiter by now is in its home sign of Pisces, very strong, very divinely charged, if that makes sense. So we are already in the divine, ethereal, the realms of the soul, the realm of the unconscious, where magic takes place, where the hand of faith operates. Of course, in a different way than Pluto, but it's still there. That can also be something very lucky. That can lead to a powerful emotional healing, to a powerful emotional release, especially for those people who have job-related traumas. And that is something very common. A boss hurt your feelings, a boss belittled you, your colleagues were toxic to you, a job, a profession, a career, something that you did traumatized you, and that sextile can heal it, but you need to put in the effort. You need to give something either another chance or to just accept that the trauma is not going to hold you back and embrace your power, embrace your passion, embrace your sensuality, Venus. And another thing I forgot, Venus will also meet the Sun in the sign of Capricorn on the 8th of January. That is also very, very important and significant because the Sun is the light of our consciousness. It illuminates us. So during a Venus retrograde, that helps. It makes us process. It makes us take it in. It gives us a certain kind of stability. And the Sun can also be seen as the ego, but that is very important because our earthly selves also have to have a big saying in everything that we love and commit to, because the commitment is the big keyword here in any way, shape or form. So this is also really positive. Now, collectively speaking, on the world stage, this is not a very peaceful energy, so to speak, because Venus will square Eris, the rebel, the freedom fighter, the truth seeker, and she is in Capricorn meeting Pluto. And from a collective perspective, well, that is who has the power, the authority, the government, centralized power. Pluto is truth coming out, the secrets, the deception. Venus, how we feel about that. And chances are it's going to make us very, very, very angry. Venus is also going to square Chiron in the sign of Aries. Chiron is the wound. So that puts salt on our wounds. We were either deceived, belittled by our governors, by our rulers, by our politicians, by our representatives, big corporations. So this will stir up spirits so very badly because we also have the Uranus and Saturn square, big energy of rebellion. And Mars is going to make key connections, which also speaks about restlessness, assertion, war. We also have the South Node at one phase still in Sagittarius, and which is the dark side of Sagittarius, religious extremism, the dark side of law where it discriminates and so much more. But then when it enters into Scorpio, during, of course, the Venus retrograde, this will happen during. If I'm not mistaken, it's on the 19th of January 2022 when the nodes of the moon shift. And Scorpio is secret. Scorpio is toxicity. And from a collective perspective, that can be the disease, like virus, for example, and that which was kept hidden about all of this subject. It is also control. It is also who controls stuff from the shadow. So who is not really seen ever, only who pulls the strings. It is also the occult. So, And Venus, how we feel about all of this, and we are not gonna be overjoyed, that's for sure. It's also about money. Venus in Capricorn, the repartition of resources, money, Pluto, fuel, the energetic crisis, currency, and I said Venus in Capricorn, commitment, so that means contracts. But those contracts which are not really optional, for example, with the banks or with energy suppliers, or where we really don't have any choice whatsoever, because the only choice is not to have electricity, for example, or not to have a bank account, and then how are you gonna get paid? So terms and conditions, contracts, clauses, and stuff like that are definitely gonna change, and perhaps not really for the better. And again, how do we as a collective feel about that? How do we feel about the secrets of a world leader coming out? Pluto, maybe sexual secrets. So all of these elements are definitely, especially collectively, are going to be key themes for this Venus retrograde season. But as I said, this might not necessarily be very easy, but whatever, let's say, emotional crisis, or you really contemplating how you feel about it, she, he, a job, a hobby, whatever that might trigger these emotions, this emotional processing, allow your true feelings to crystallize, because this is for the long term. This is where you actually upgrade your value system, and value system needs how I feel towards this. Is this worth my time? Is this worth my sacrifice? Is this worth my attention? And as I said, it will also make us think back whatever happened, especially in 2020, how our lives changed, how our new normality looks like, how we feel about that, how it changed our future plans, how it changed our worldview, and ultimately how it changed the relationships that we had with ourselves. A lot of people will have big career changes or just quit and even go nomad. That's also a possibility with the nodes shifting, because the dark side of Sagittarius South Node is nomad. Especially when it reaches 0 degrees of the sign, when it almost exits it. And Uranus, the rebel, well, if it cannot beat Saturn, it can just go nomad. Say, I don't care about any rules, anything. I'll just physically go, and I don't live in the woods or live however I can, but I'm not obeying your commands. I'm not forcing myself to live according to your laws, rules, legislation, customs, traditions, etc. That is also a possible expression. But as I said, even if we might get the stormy expression of this energy, this is very useful, because this is for the long, this gives us stability, this gives us also profound self-knowledge, this gives us honesty. The disillusioning qualities of this Venus retrograde are those elements which we truly have to embrace, because they are profoundly healing. They express who we truly are deep within our souls. That Pluto, even if it brings forward our shadow, the shadow is us, really, so we need to know it. That is the only way we can love it and respect it and give it what it needs, is if we actually know how it feels, what triggers it, what it is against, what it cannot accept, cannot tolerate, and cannot commit to. Because Juno, yes, commitment, of course, but that also includes all that which we cannot commit to. Because not everyone is going to find the answers of what they love during this Venus retrograde season. Some people are going to find out what they definitely do not love. And maybe their love was an illusion, a projection from society, the expectations of their parents, which forced them to love something. So this Pluto and Venus conjunction is going to be so very liberating regardless how it plays out. So we must welcome it and truly work with this energy, because this is definitely towards our greater good. So thank you once again for listening. Thank you for everyone's love, support, likes, shares, and beautiful comments. I wish everyone a truly fated Venus retrograde. And until next time, bye for now.